morning. Top of the morning to you. Are you on a mountain peak as we speak to you right now?
No, I'm in Tahoe.
I had to watch your movie twice because
Oh, really?
I couldn't believe it the first time. So I had to watch it again. I had to rewatch it. It's called Girl Climber, and it will be available for everybody to stream. It's out on Jolt right now, and then it comes on some streaming platforms, I believe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about you and your peaks. Wow. First of all, how are you doing now? You have a baby, you're married. I feel like maybe your energy and ambition has probably recalibrated a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's a very accurate statement. Yeah, I've had some life changes since the movie. All good things, but yeah, just, different, challenging, and energy sapping.
Energy, yeah, right. Well, first of all, congratulations on being the first woman to climb El Capitan, the Golden Gate. You did that in less than 24 hours. You also climbed Mount Everest when you were 25 years old. So it's like, I don't know where to begin. Let's begin there since that happened first. You did that without really any training. You went and climbed Mount Everest with a group of people, left your Sherpa in the dust because he couldn't keep up with you. So talk to us about that decision and about how one decides to do something like that without the proper quote unquote training. I don't say quote unquote because you do fucking need training to do that.
Right. Ice climbing and all that.
Yes, you do. And, yeah, without specific training, but you have to remember that I've been a rock climber since the age of 10. So,
But that's not in snow, though. Is that? I mean,
yeah, no, but I also grew up skiing, and then, in my early 20s, I started kind of diversifying in my climbing, and I learned how to ice climb. I actually won an ice climbing competition earlier that year. So I had started acquiring the skills, I would say. I just didn't have very much altitude experience, which I think is very important for something like Mount Everest, but thankfully it all worked out.
Well, yeah, it did work out. Tell us about it, though. I mean, there's a great scene in the movie where you're stuck in the tent with your girlfriend, who has since sadly passed away in an avalanche. But as you were talking about climbing Mount Everest, there's a part of it where there are 5 avalanches a day that happen, and you have to just kind of time it right so that you don't get caught in one. I mean, that sounds absolutely fucking crazy.
I think to, the layperson, it might be a bit insane. Mount Everest is a very interesting place. I've since learned a lot since being there myself. I think as a young 25-year-old, I was pretty naive. Now I'm married to a mountain guide who goes to Mount Everest every year. So I have quite a different perspective on it. But yeah, it was a wild experience. It taught me a lot. It was a radical departure from anything that I was used to in my climbing. Mount Everest is walking up a big snowy hill for a very long period of time, with this excruciating suffering of high altitude. It's not technically difficult like I was used to in rock climbing, so those types of skills were actually quite easy for me. But at the same time, there was a lot of suffering. There was a lot of what we call type 2 fun, which is the in hindsight looking back, oh, that was actually pretty cool, even though I was fucking miserable the whole time. So yeah, it was a really, I think it was a valuable experience. It changed my entire life because that was where I did meet my husband. So I have a lot to thank for Everest.
That's not good advice for our listeners. That's how you meet your soulmate
On
is
top of
by
a mountain.
climbing Mount Everest. Because I mean, how many people are going to be able to just whip it out and do that? When you're doing these things, because I think a through line of this movie is your fear, your not your fearlessness. It's pushing beyond your fear, and it's about really kind of get the adrenaline that comes from beating your fear and moving past any sort of boundaries that we may set for ourselves, and also committing to the pain of it, right? The pain is it's kind of almost a side notion. It's that's part of the process to get where you're going. Was kind of one of my takeaways from watching this is that you wanted to be up there, you didn't want to be thought less than as a woman because women are, you say this in the beginning of the film, inferior or thought to be inferior physically to men. And you wanted to prove that that's not necessarily true.
Correct. I mean, I think more than anything, I wanted to prove something to myself. And I think throughout that journey on Golden Gate, it became more evident that it was much more an internal struggle than an external struggle. That said, I do think the film did a really nice job of kind of like expressing these more feminine characteristics of vulnerability, of expressing fear, crying, showing emotion. And it kind of, a lot of these things that are perceived of as weaknesses, I think the film does a really nice job of kind of revealing those things as strengths. I was very vulnerable. I was very honest about my fears and my struggles and my failures. But I think a lot of those things are what eventually enabled me to be successful, because I did become comfortable sitting in those spaces of fear and struggle and failure. And I think those are pretty important human experiences to have that a lot of us just don't get to have in daily life. We don't get to confront those uncomfortable things very often.
The movie starts out with you attempting El Capitan with Alex Honnold, who we all know from Free Solo, and you kind of weren't really as prepared as you would want to have been. And then you go back again the next year, you do more training, and then you train on El Capitan, and then you make your next attempt, right? So it's kind of like, how do you frame those periods of time that were in the movie from the beginning to the end? Like, when you look at that, do you think, oh, I wasn't prepared enough? Like, do you accept that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think that first attempt, I actually knew that I wasn't prepared, but sometimes you need to kind of like try the thing in order to figure out what you need to do differently. Like, you have to go fail in order to find out what needs to change and what you need to improve upon. And so for me, that attempt was actually just, I didn't really expect to be successful. Like, the weather didn't look good. The season was really tough. The entire wall was wet. Like, the odds of success were pretty slim, but it was like, I need to go try to kind of like see where I'm at and see where my fitness is and see the weak points so that I can like go back and train, and then I can come back and be better. So you kind of have to go, I had to go fail in order to like figure out what to do.
Yeah.
In the
Almost like a
future.
dry run, right?
Yeah,
Or a wet
it was a
run.
dry run.
And to be fair, you got like
A wet run.
rained and hailed
Yeah.
off the side of the mountain, so fair.
Yeah. So, and then you go, okay. So then you go back and start training with him, which, by the way, great support system. I mean, he's like the best climbing buddy you could possibly have. And your husband, of course, is also a great support system. But I mean, it felt like, the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure how many times you had done it. I was like, wait, did I just watch her 4 or 5 times do the same thing? And then I realized, oh, okay, this is you practicing, and this is you on a pitch where you fall down a pitch and then you redo the pitch. So there's all these kind of different kind of technical terms that I wasn't familiar with. But it's an incredible feat, and it's incredible strength of mind, because you talk us through when you were younger and you had an eating disorder. You were eating only carrots for a certain period in your life, where your mother said your hands turned orange because you were only eating carrots. And to be doing your physical activities with that little nutrition and what you were doing in terms of rock climbing and ice picking and all of those things, like the wear and tear that must have had on your body and the innate strength that you had to even continue to do that in those conditions.
Yeah, I mean, I think eating disorders are pretty pervasive in the sport of climbing, just because it is kind of a strength to weight ratio sport. And you do see like really short term gains, and it's very obvious when it happens, but it is short term, like it doesn't last. And so I think for me, I just started emotionally and physically breaking down and recognizing that climbing was making me really unhappy, and it was becoming a punishment. And that's actually when I started transitioning into other avenues of climbing, different disciplines. That's when I had the opportunity to go to Nepal, to go to the Himalaya, and then the following year I went to Mount Everest. And with that kind of climbing, you really cannot get away with not fueling properly. Like, it's just not an
Right.
option. You just won't go anywhere on the mountain. And so that was really eye-opening for me, was like, oh, actually, like, I need to fuel my body in order to be successful. And it took several years for me to kind of like wrap my brain around it. I kept kind of falling back into the bad habits. But I think, thankfully I had some really good mentors and really good influences on me. And then I did kind of diversify and go into this other realm of climbing and recognize essentially what I was doing wrong, and that the approach was just flawed.
And how was the approach flawed? Because of the eating disorder, or because of everything surrounding that?
I think everything. I think the idea of trying to control every single thing in my life and having this really like perfectionist mindset and being super hard on myself if things didn't go perfectly, it was just beating me down. And then the eating disorder was kind of it was kind of just like an effect of all of those feelings. And then it was like a cycle of punishment. Like if I didn't succeed, then I had to train harder and I had to eat less and I had to do more. And so it was just like this cycle of exhaustion and punishment and honestly just unhappiness. And I think a lot of like athletes can relate to being kind of stuck in that space.
And do you think that's more of a female thing, female athlete thing, or do you think eating disorders are pervasive among men in sport as well?
I think it's pervasive among men as well. I just don't think it's as talked about.
Right.
I don't think it's as accepted for men to talk about it even. But I do know some men who have struggled with it, and I think that they're much more prone to kind of like hiding it and not talking about it and having it people not really like think it's an issue with men. But I very much think it is.
Okay, so halfway through this movie, you're attempting to climb. You start, I think, at 4 a.m. You're attempting again to climb El Capitan. You're with Alex and his girlfriend, and you have a fall. You fall. How many feet did you fall?
I think I fell like 50 feet.
It's
or something.
I mean, how did you not get more injured during that fall?
I don't know, honestly. I think it was like one of those super lucky situations. I completely like flipped upside down, and I think I flipped upside down and there was so much there was so much slack in the system that the rope actually caught me on my neck
Yeah.
and like burned I had like this crazy rope burn all up and down my neck, and I did hit my head. I lost consciousness. So for me, like, I don't remember a whole lot because I did lose consciousness. I think it was like far more traumatic for the people who were there and rescued me
Yeah,
than it was actually
and it's
for
all
me.
caught on camera.
Yeah.
So that was also
It's all
like
caught on
incredible
camera.
because you're
Yeah.
hearing you scream and you
Yeah.
don't know exactly what has happened to you. And then we see you in the hospital and we realize that you are injured, but you're not. It's not like you can't walk again, which is what Alex
No,
was worried about when he heard that fall.
I think we were all worried about that. I did have back pain, but then like I went to the hospital and they were kind of in disbelief too. They were like, "You fell how far?" Like, "Oh my God." And then they did all these tests and they were like, "You're fine. You can leave." So, I had a concussion obviously, and mentally I think I was pretty shaken and it took me a while to kind of like get back to a place where I felt comfortable climbing again, where I could really trust myself. But yeah, I got incredibly lucky.
And it's just such a mental, like when I'm watching this movie and watching you, I just felt such an understanding of like, it's almost, I mean, of course it's physical, it's all physical, but it is so more, if not more mental than commensurate to how physical it is. I want you to talk to me about that. What part of you do you think is mental and for this kind of thing, and what part is physical?
I mean, I think it's massively mental. I think the ability to kind of look at this 3,200-foot wall and say, "Okay, I'm gonna try to climb it in under 24 hours." It's just a massive mental and emotional undertaking, and it's really hard to not feel incredibly daunted when you're standing at the bottom. So it very much is a process of like breaking it down into these more digestible pieces and maintaining composure over this really long period of time. And then there is a level of exhaustion that you eventually reach, halfway up the wall, 2/3 of the way up the wall, or whatever that may be. And there is like this mental component of like you have to keep going even though you feel exhausted. I mean, it's just like any endurance sport where you really have to kind of like dig into those mental reserves and the mental endurance in order to kind of like keep moving, and you have to have a lot of belief and a lot of faith that you do have that little bit of extra to keep going.
Yeah, what would you say to people who are struggling with that? Because it's any athlete. I was just at the US Open and you could see people who are not mentally, like, they're tougher physically than they are mentally. Their mental game isn't there. And then when you see people who are mentally clicked in, you could see how they are just unbeatable. Like they just keep going and they keep going. But it's not something that is, it's not a permanent state of mind to be mentally prepared for something.
No, it's not. But I think that it has to be trained just like your body has to be trained. And I think that's a lot of things that like maybe amateur athletes don't often recognize is a lot of these elite athletes are doing mental training alongside their physical training. So they're preparing their minds just as well as they're preparing their bodies for like the big day or the game or whatever, the match or whatever that is. And it takes a lot of work up front to kind of prepare your mind and then, be ready for when circumstances arise that are out of your control on the day to kind of like deal with those circumstances and deal with the pitfalls and keep going. I think it you have to think of it like a muscle. Like I do work with a sports psychologist who kind of like has helped me for years get to the point where I'm ready on the day. And I just think that that's often something that's missed, is that we also like train our minds just as much.
Yeah. And do you think you were leaning? I mean, of course, you were leaning on Alex, kind of in an emotional way, right? Even though he was there to climb with you, like, don't you feel like because watching it, first of all, but they don't show your sports psychologist in this movie.
No, it's like a little clip of me talking to her on the phone.
Okay.
There's like quite a bit of like liability with that. So I think
I would imagine. How did you feel watching this film? And seeing yourself at all these different stages in your life.
It's funny because everybody sees the film and then they, everybody kind of like thinks they know you and they know your story. And part of that is true, but it really truly is just like this little snapshot of my life. And thankfully, I really like the movie. I think it's done quite well. I'm really proud of it and I'm proud of the whole team. And so it's been a really fun kind of reliving of the whole journey. It's been pretty nostalgic. And I think after I did Golden Gate, I went through this period of time where I was like kind of downplaying it in my head. I think a lot of athletes go through this. You kind of like do the thing and then you're like a little depressed and everything feels like melancholy and you're like, well, what am I doing now? I'm lost. I definitely went through that. And so now that the movie's out and I've had some distance from it, it's been really fun to kind of like feel proud. I don't think I felt like this is the most proud I've felt of the actual achievement because I got to kind of like relive it with all these people and people are like inspired by it. And that's just been such a cool process to go through.
Yeah. How many times have you climbed it since then? Since you've had a baby?
No, I haven't. I haven't been back. I mean, no, I have been back. I've been back every year. I just haven't been to El Cap. I've climbed in the valley at other areas, other walls that are quite a bit shorter. I haven't quite gotten the like fire back to climb on that wall. Every time I drive into Yosemite, I look at it and I'm like, "Oh my god, it's so big. I can't believe I did that." So I'm getting there slowly, but it's been kind of a long road to get back to that style of climbing for me. I do still climb a ton and I train really hard, and thankfully there's all these different styles of climbing that kind of like are a bit easier and less time consuming than free climbing on El Cap. So I still rock climb a bunch. I haven't made it back to El Cap yet, but I really hope so.
And now you climb with your baby, right? I mean, I guess they're not a baby anymore.
Toddler.
Toddler.
He's 2.5. Yeah, we try to do trips that are like kind of like friendly for families. We have a bunch of like all of us have kids now. We're just all like aging athletes. Like Honnold has 2 kids now. So we all go together and like bring the vans and go, and it's just like complete chaos, but we all get to climb and kind of help each other out, and it's super fun. But yeah, we bring him along. He's like pretty excited. He's pretty stoked on like swinging around on the ropes and like talking about climbing, but yeah, it's kind of like a family affair now.
Another thing I'm really jealous of is that you've skied so many peaks in so many different countries. What is it? 8,000 peaks? Is that what it says?
8,000 foot peak.
8,000 meters.
8,000 meters. 8,000
Okay,
peaks. I'm like,
meters.
who's counting all those peaks? 8,000
No.
meters.
I haven't done 8,000 peaks. Yeah, I'm a skier. You're a skier as
I
well,
love
right?
skiing, yes, but I mean, I've
Yeah.
never done anything like that. No, I would be fucking
Yeah.
shitting my pants.
I mean, skiing was my first passion. I started skiing when I was 2 years old, and I was a ski racer, and I quit for climbing, and then I moved to Tahoe when I met my husband, and he's like a professional big mountain skier. So he's skied like a lot of the biggest mountains in the world, and I've like joined for some of the trips. But for me, skiing is like I've since rediscovered it. It's a total second passion, and it's just like this really amazing alternative to climbing that I have where like I don't have any like weird expectations or performance or like anxiety or identity like wrapped up in skiing. Like skiing is for me, it's like this like amazing, fun, like lovely activity for me to do with my husband. And it's just like one of my favorite things. Like sometimes I'd much rather go skiing than go climbing because it just is such a like refreshing alternative to like my career, which is rock
Right,
climbing.
right. And do you think that you have in what ways do you think that you've applied what you've learned from actually accomplishing that and having such not a bumpy road, but your challenges along the way to accomplish what you set out to do, which was climb El Capitan in less than 24 hours on that route. Like, how have you been able to measure how that experience has influenced your like mother, being a mother and having a baby and being a parent? Like, how does it influence your decisions or challenges that you face in your real life?
Yeah, I mean, I just like to say that having a kid is like embarking on a lifelong expedition. Like when you go on an expedition, it's like you're like sleep gets all fucked up. You're like not eating as well as you want. You don't have a routine. Like you're exhausted, but you still have to like perform and you still have to like keep moving forward and you still have to keep trying. And that's kind of what parenting is. It's like some days it like sucks and you're tired and like nobody's happy, but you just like keep moving and every phase is temporary and you just keep going. And like when you look back on it, you're kind of like, oh yeah, actually like that was a great memory. That was a super fun time, even though it was like really hard. And so I think we've sort of applied that to our parenting. It's just like another adventure that we're embarking on. And we're still like trying to do all the same things. We're still trying to go places. We're trying to be skiers. We're trying to be climbers. We're trying to be athletes. And we're trying to incorporate our son into it. Of course, like things have changed and we've like pivoted a little bit and we have different priorities and we approach risk completely differently than we used to. But that's not to say that we don't still take risks. I think risk is like a very healthy like part of living and it's something that we should all like talk more about. So yeah, we just kind of like we kind of like view it in that framework of like what we've always done in our lives. And like we're going to keep doing what we do. We're going to keep trying hard. We're going to keep trying to do hard things. Being a parent is also hard, but it's also like really fun and we've chosen it. And so this is like our chosen like suffering and our chosen adventure and it's mostly awesome.
Well, I like what you said about taking risks. Like, how does that apply to being a parent? Like, what are some ways in which you take risks as a parent? Because I think people think about that as like a solo journey, right? Risk taking, like, oh, that's about me, and you're only putting yourself at risk. But is there any way in which you do that as a parent?
Yeah, I mean, we take risks in our own like athletic endeavors still, my husband and we talk very clearly about those things and we, kind of like weigh whether or not the experience or the achievement is going to be worth the risk. And some things just nowadays just aren't as worth it, so we kind of don't do them. We back off. But also we like encourage our kid to take risks. We encourage him to think about risks and like if he falls down and he learns something from it. We don't really feel like we wanna be like the bubble wrap parents, and kind of like prevent him
Too late.
from yeah. Prevent him from experiencing like failure and, getting hurt and stuff like that. I mean, obviously there's like guardrails that we have, but, I think for the most part, we're like pretty stoked on bringing him along for adventures and, really open to talking about risks. And I think, it's gonna be harder as he gets older. I think that's the trick with parenting is like when your kid finds their passion, hopefully they find their passion, not like kind of really worrying about those things and really worrying about what could happen to them. I think that's going to be like one of the biggest hurdles. Right now it's like all very simple. He's 2. So like it's not that hard. The decisions aren't that hard yet.
Yeah, in the movie you talk about the first time you went rock climbing and like that you said a light turned off. I would say probably on or off, right? When you experience that. Just talk a little bit about like finding the thing that moves you and in your own experience.
Yeah, I feel super lucky that I kind of had that experience. I was 10 years old and I grew up in Colorado. We were at this lake and there was one of those artificial walls. And I climbed the wall and I just remember like I was really afraid because I could like feel the air under my feet and I felt exposure and I was like feeling fear. But I just like kept going and got to the top and came down and it was just like this really empowering feeling to like be afraid and feel exposure, but continue to work through it and get to the top. And it was just one of those feelings where I immediately went to my dad and I was like, how do I do this again? Like, this is what I want to do. I want to do that again. So he took me to the climbing gym, and then everything just took off from there.
And I know it's obviously a mostly male sport, like everything in the world is. So what is the community like with climbers? Because in the movie, there's there's other climbers featured. Some are mostly male. There's a couple of women in there. What's the vibe like when you're climbing? Like, do you go in a group typically? Or do you ever go by yourself? Or is that a no-no? You always need a buddy.
Yeah, it depends on what you're doing. I will say that climbing is it's growing massively. It's an Olympic sport now, and it's just like exploding across the world in terms because of climbing gyms, I think. And the female participation has just skyrocketed. And it is one of the only sports, I think, where the difference between men and women is quite a bit narrower, and it's getting more narrow. Like, some of the best climbers in the world are females. Some of the most well-known climbers in the world are females because it is a very complicated sport. It rewards strength, but it also rewards flexibility, and it also rewards puzzle, like the ability to solve puzzles, and it rewards body awareness. And so there are these spaces where females can really excel, and we have. And we do have these like standout achievements in climbing, like what Lynn Hill did in the early 90s when she was the first person to free climb El Cap in a day. Like, that is like the most groundbreaking achievement in rock climbing, and it is owned by a woman, and everybody knows it. So in that way, climbing is very unique. That said, there's obviously more male participation than female. And when I was growing up, I basically like just climbed with boys. There weren't that many girls, but now it's like just so different. Yeah, when we go rock climbing, generally, if you're climbing with a rope, you have a partner. And so I go with my husband, or I have friends around. I have a lot of friends, like I said, who have kids now, so we kind of can all go together. If I'm going to the climbing gym, I sometimes will just go by myself and put my headphones in and just like go get my workout in. That's like the most effective, easiest way to train, is to just like go by yourself and do your thing. So yeah, it's a mix. But if you're going outside, generally I have a partner because I like to climb on a rope or with a rope.
Do you mentor any young climbers, any young females?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm sort of stepping into that role as a mentor right now, especially with the film coming out. I am also a part of the North Face Global Athlete Team, which is this really amazing, like, it's a very like well-formed team of athletes, and we get together, and there are opportunities to mentor the younger athletes. I've now been on the team since 2008, so I'm like one of the older athletes on the team. And growing up, I had mentors like Conrad Anker, who brought me to Mount Everest, and Hillary Nelson, who's in the film. And so now I'm sort of stepping into that role with the younger athletes on the team, which has been super fun. And then also, I'm now working with this nonprofit called Z Girls, which is like mental health coaching for adolescent girls. And what it is they like pair a professional athlete with a mental health coach. And we do these like virtual calls where we kind of help young girls, they're like ages 11 to 14, kind of like deal with all the struggles of being an adolescent and confidence and all of those things. And so that's been kind of a really cool way to like mentor just more young women.
I was so amazed watching the film, like when you guys whipped out of bed, like on the side of the mountain. I was like, wait, they're going to go fucking sleep now? I'm like,
snooze.
I mean, it's kind of amazing what you can bring up there with you, because the definition of free climbing, you tell me, what's the definition of free climbing?
Yeah, so free climbing is exactly what you imagine it to be. It is using your hands and feet to ascend a wall.
And no
you
rope.
You use a rope.
You
So
do
this is
use
where
the
it gets
rope.
confusing.
Okay.
Free climbing is using your hands and feet to ascend a wall, and you use a rope and protection in case of a fall. Now it's meant to be compared against aid climbing, which is how like back in the 60s they climbed walls like El Cap. They would like place protection and pull on the protection, and they would use the ropes. That's called aid climbing because they thought it was impossible to free climb. Like, they thought it was impossible to climb just the rock itself. And now we have free climbing. The reason that it got fucked up is I blame Alex Honnold because of free solo. The term free, everybody just associates that with like no ropes. Free solo is actually free climbing without a rope.
Okay.
It's the term solo that differentiates it. So
Okay.
free climbing is anything. If you've ever been to a climbing gym and you're like climbing on the colored holds, that is free climbing. Like, anytime you're just using your hands and feet to ascend, that's free climbing. It's just like this umbrella term. And in general, we use rope and protection in case of a fall.
And what are you doing to eat on your way up? What are you taking for nutrients?
I'm kind of like a snacker. So I would bring just like a variety of like bars and dried fruit and nuts and like salty things, a lot of water. We had like a good support crew with us. So like Alex had a backpack with a bunch of stuff in it and he wasn't free climbing, he was like ascending the rope behind me so he could carry like a lot more. And then, yeah, we had Adrian brought down some food for me. So yeah, it's just like it's kind of like running an ultra marathon or like running a long race. It's like you kind of want to be fueling a little bit every hour, essentially.
Yeah. What did you think, Catherine, when you watched the movie?
I mean,
did you have to watch it twice like me?
I didn't watch it twice, but I was like, I was wrapped. Like my attention was just so with you.
Yeah, it was really intense. I mean, it really real just tough stuff.
Yeah. Two things that really were shocking to me. One being the choice to sort of announce that you were going to do this project, that you were going to free climb El Cap, not the easiest route, but a different route, a harder route in under 24 hours before you did it. Because if you hadn't announced it, like no one would know that you've, quote unquote, failed a few times. No one would know if you never made it. But I thought that was so interesting that you chose to do that.
Did you do that so that you would do it?
I mean, I don't know. I think like in this day and age, like as an athlete, you're kind of like your own brand. And so you do have to tell stories. And I'm a firm believer in kind of like bringing people along for the ride in all of its forms, like in the failure and the success. And I think the reason people are so like kind of drawn to the film is because they can relate to it, because there is a lot of failure and because I did tell the story and I wasn't afraid to like be vulnerable.
And you wanted to give up. And there were times where you wanted to give up.
Yeah.
Even while you were climbing, you were like, forget it, I can't do it. And they're like, you're going to do, your husband, I believe, was like, you're going to do it today. That is something that anybody can relate to, is failing and wanting to give up and throw in the towel. But the perseverance is what separates, the winners.
And the other thing about that is that was after you had a fall on that success attempt, the attempt that you were successful. And that fall is so excruciating to watch, where you just head first hit the wall. I mean,
and end up with a hole in your head.
Yeah. But the fact that you stop, you have yourself a little cry, and then you go the rest of the way the fuck up the mountain. Like that to me was so incredible. And what you were saying earlier about showing emotion, that is a perfect example of that. Like you got that out of your system and then you kept going.
Yeah. And that's what I tell people. It's like, people are like, how did you keep going? Like you wanted to give up. And it's like, yeah, I did want to give up, but I kind of knew, like, I also needed Adrian there to be like, nope, you're not done. I would tell you if you were done, like you're fine. Like we did first aid and everything. I didn't actually have a concussion.
Okay.
But I really needed to like you said, I needed to like get it out of my system and like have the cry, express all the doubts, like express that I wasn't feeling confident. And then it was like, okay, like all of that's out there. Like I got it off my chest and now I can like try again. Which honestly, like logistically, it kind of was the easiest thing to do. Like bailing at that position on the wall is quite difficult.
Yeah.
Like it's not just like you're going to like hop in your car and, go home and have a nice,
what does happen when one bails at that point? Because I would think you would just belay down or rappel down
it's
or whatever.
Super convoluted and really difficult to do. Like you can't really rappel straight down off that section of the wall for various like nuanced reasons. The easiest way is up, so you could like ascend ropes basically or aid climb out. But at that point it's like, why don't you just try to climb the pitch one more time, So I'd like kind of big wall free climbing is cool, and it kind of like forces you into these positions. Like you're kind of like forced into trying because it's actually just like kind of the easiest thing to do in the moment.
And what is that called when you're sandwiched in between, like in a cave when you're
a crack?
Yeah, the crack. What is it? What's the term for that? Is it just a crack?
Well, yeah, it's crack climbing when you're ascending a crack. But when it's like wider than your hands can fit, then that's called like wide climbing or off-width climbing. And it's this super like uncomfortable, like specific style of climbing that is very unique to El Cap and other like, granite.
Yeah, it seems impossible.
It's like, it like sucks. It's like my least favorite kind of climbing, and I'm like not that good at it.
So when you summited and you got to the top for the first time, the way you wanted to, I think you had done it before, but not that, like not free climbing, right? So the first time you did it, and you break down and you're emotional and you're joyful and all the things. And you say this really great line about like, you're hungry, you're wet, you're cold, but everything is perfect. Something along those lines, which I thought is a great.
I love that line.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And it kind of sums up everything that anyone would feel after fighting your way to get somewhere. What was it like for you to watch yourself do that and be in that state?
It's so awesome. Like I always, whenever the film is premiering and I have to be at a premiere, I always leave for the middle. And then I always make sure to come back for the end. Cause I do, it's like, it's just so special. And I just feel so lucky that I get to experience it again. It was just such a relief, honestly, like a relief and surreal and joyful. I was just so stoked. And then what people often don't realize is like, you have to like walk back down off the top and it takes like 3.5 hours. So we were just like at the top and then we had to walk back down. We got back at like 3 a.m. or something.
Do you walk down off the back of the mountain or you rappel back down?
You like walk, no, you don't rappel down. You kind of like walk back and then wind your way around and you actually end up having to do like 3 or 4 rappels. And then you hike through the woods and down, but it takes like 3 hours and it's super easy to get lost. It's just like a whole thing.
Especially in the middle of the night.
And I know. I don't even understand how people do this in the middle of the night with a miner's lamp. What and also all of those hooks, are those hooks already on all these mountains? Because where do these hooks come from? Like, are they permanent on El Capitan that you're hooking your ropes to?
Yes. So some of it is. So there are bolts that the first ascensionists, like the people who go up there and like find the line and make the route, sometimes they put in bolts where they drill a hole in the wall and then they hammer in a bolt and you can clip a carabiner to that and that's how you clip your rope in. So the bolts are permanent. And then we have like traditional gear, which is like, we have these devices called cams and they're like pieces of metal and you squeeze a trigger and it like contracts and you stick it in the crack and it expands. And it's actually super solid and will hold a fall, but you put those in and then you remove them. So we have like gear that can be placed permanently and then gear that can be removed. And it kind of just depends on the style of climbing and the place. Some places have specific rules about bolts, like some don't allow it. So it's all like, again, very nuanced, but yes, some of the gear is up there and some of it we bring with us and like put it in and take it out.
Okay. We're going to take a break and we're going to be right back with Emily Harrington from Girl Climber. And we're back with Emily Harrington from Girl Climber, who set a record. Well, she set a lot of records. You've won a lot of awards, but we'll cover all of that in your intro, so you don't have to listen to all of your awards from me, because you're a 5-time U.S. national champion climber. So, okay, we're back.
We are back.
We're back with Emily.
Are you ready to give
we're
some
gonna
advice?
We're going to field some questions from callers and give some advice. And I'm sure these are related to your experience in life.
They'll all be in your wheelhouse. More or less.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Great.
Well, our first question, this one's an email, comes from Molly. She says, Dear Chelsea, I need travel recommendations and advice on how to have fun, feel empowered, but stay safe while traveling solo as a 44-year-old female. I'm finally out of a 20-year toxic marriage and looking forward to finding myself again on the slopes. After years of raising kids without much of a partner, financially scraping by, and wasting so much time, money, and energy on getting legally unhitched, on December 25th at 12 p.m., I will be child-free and on winter break from work for over a week. Chelsea, where should I go?
Tahoe! Go skiing!
Yeah,
Tahoe.
So she says, I used to love to travel Europe, but that was always in his shadow, on his schedule with his rules. I'm an avid skier. I've got all the gear, but finances are a thing. I've been saving and will have about $3,500 to spend on the whole trip, soup to nuts. I love all the places you travel, and I'm hoping to reconnect with the independent, intelligent 20-year-old woman I was just before I met my ex. In the meantime, maybe I can know what it feels like to reclaim my narrative, even for a week. I know you love Whistler, and I'd be all in if I can financially swing it. What are some other places of your favorite places to go in the middle of winter to get away and have fun?
I think Tahoe has the most options and is the most affordable. Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, Aspen's expensive, Whistler's expensive. Tahoe's a little bit more affordable with a lot of array, and they've been having great snow for the last 5 years. Do you agree with that? Emily?
Yeah, I mean, I'm biased, but I love Tahoe. And we have so many ski resorts around Lake Tahoe that you can kind of like pick and choose. Some are more expensive than others. Some are more, for expert skiers. Some are more for beginner skiers. The terrain differs, but you do have a lot of options.
And a lot of traffic. Like there's going to be a lot of people there, like in a good way. Tahoe's really popular and it's accessible. It's not as bad as like some of these other ski towns where there's only one way in and one way out. And if your flight gets delayed, you're on a bus for 8 hours. I feel like Tahoe doesn't have that problem as often as like a place like Aspen does, or even some of like, Telluride or Jackson Hole, same kind of thing. So, I think you should go to Tahoe.
All right, Molly, you're going to Tahoe.
There you go.
Excellent. Well, we do have people calling in. So our first caller today is Scarlett. She says, Dear Chelsea, I could really use your take on a recurring family vacation issue. I live in the Rockies with my long-term boyfriend. My family and his are both on the East Coast. To keep things fair, my boyfriend and I split the holidays, Thanksgiving with my family, Christmas with his, especially because my family is Jewish and Christmas is my boyfriend's favorite holiday to spend with his family. The issue is, my mom has a long-standing tradition of surprise family Christmas vacations. She books the whole thing without telling us the destination, just sends a packing list and reveals where we're going at the airport. Cute as a kid, but as an adult, she still books my flights and accommodations without asking me, and it has made it difficult to balance the surprise trip and whatever else is going on in my life. I've directly asked her many times to please run trips by me before booking anything on my behalf, but it seems to fall on deaf ears or she just ignores me. One year in law school, I had a chance to go abroad over winter break. I explicitly asked her to wait until I had my travel dates for the program and told her it would be my only opportunity to go before I was done with law school. As soon as I had the dates, I called her, and lo and behold, she'd already booked the family trip anyway. I ended up cramming in both trips, bounced across 4 time zones, and crashed so hard afterward that I barely kept up with classes. I fear this set a bad precedent because now it seems like as long as she books the trip first, she gets dibs on my availability.
She doesn't get to book your trip. This is ridiculous.
Yes. So another Christmas issue that came up was the first year that she and her boyfriend decided to spend the holidays together. Her mom booked the Christmas trip without telling her, and so she wound up having to go with her family, and they'd already spent Thanksgiving with her family. So it was a little unfair on his behalf. So now this behavior has expanded to all family events. She gets passive aggressive if I say no. It keeps asking me to reconsider. And honestly, I'm exhausted trying to juggle her expectations with my job as a brand new baby lawyer and my life. In law school, I learned that if I don't bake in time for myself to recharge, my body will force me to repay that debt later via blinding migraines. So here's my question. Is it reasonable to skip family trips even if I'm technically available? Do reasons like work, needing a break, or just not wanting to go make me an asshole? I'm so resentful that even her generosity, she pays for everything, is starting to feel suffocating. Do I need to adjust my attitude? Scarlett.
No, I'm suffocated by this letter. It's too much. It's too much. She needs to chill out, and you need to put it in writing. Like, I have asked you repeatedly. You are not listening to me. You are not hearing me. You guys are both splitting the holidays. Like, she has to respect that. Like, she has to respect that you're in a different part of your life now. You're an adult. You live with her. You're not her little daughter that she has to pay for to take everywhere. Like, that's just not the way it needs to go down. So I would recommend writing a very stern email saying, you've left me no like recourse but to actually write this letter to you, and these are the rules moving forward. Like, you're not telling me where I'm going. We're not doing surprise trips anymore. You have to get my permission before I agree to go on a vacation. What do you think, Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could never let someone book a flight for me. I can't do it. I like way too controlling to handle that. Yeah, you got to lay down the law for sure.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, you're going to tell her this again. She's going to do it again. And I think the only way she's actually going to stop is when you say, like, sorry, those dates are ones I told you were not available. And then you don't go on the trip. I think this is when she's going to have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, you're going to have to actually follow through on not going on some of these trips.
Yeah. And I think that's been the hard part is like, I actually have to, even though she's paid for it, even if she beat me to booking my own trip, to still say no. And maybe that will finally be when it sinks in. What about timing? Do you have any, I think putting it in writing is a good idea, but I guess trying to find like a good time to talk about it, you know what I mean? Or I don't know. Any
As
thoughts on
early
that?
as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Today. You
Yeah.
should do this today. Like start crafting that email today so that because the holidays are coming up and you're going to face this issue again. And you have to give her something that's close enough to the holidays. It's perfect timing. Go in preparation for the holidays this year. That's how you could start it out. I'm giving you this advance warning. I do not want you planning a vacation. Unfortunately, I've tried to express myself over the years and you're not listening to me. This is what we're doing. We're spending Thanksgiving here. We're doing, whatever you decide that how you guys are going to split, like what you've been doing.
And you can even give her the range of dates now, because I guarantee she's already looking. She's already looking at dates.
Well, that's
For
if
all
you
I
want.
know, she's already booked it again.
But that's if you want to go. Do you want to go away with her this year?
Not over Christmas, no, and I don't. And I think that, I think from here on out, I'm just not going. And I think what's been tough is that, like, if I miss that or like she's kind of been like score keeping or she kind of like tracks stuff. So it's like for other family vacations too, she'll be like, well, you can work remote over here. We'll pay for everything versus like kind of she only accepts a logistical reason for why I can't go. She doesn't really accept like I don't have the bandwidth for it right now. You know what I mean? Like she wants like a real issue versus like, I don't know how to kindly explain like,
it's
like,
just that
it's not
she's.
that I don't want to see them. It's that I'm too, I don't know, like I just don't have the bandwidth or the energy, or I just like would rather spend that time doing something else.
Yeah. And I mean, you don't have to say that, but you can just say that her controlling like nature is taking the fun out of these vacations for you also, that it makes you want to withdraw or retreat, that you don't necessarily want to go because of her insistence upon going.
And I think the blinding migraines are a really solid reason. Like I do need to take that time to restore because that's when people are gone. That's when nobody needs me. Like that, we find ourselves in that situation as well as like people who don't live in the same place as we grew up. It's sort of on us to travel. And we had to make the decision a few years ago of like, that's the only time we get to rest for the year. So like we're going to stay home, and we do miss Christmas with our families.
Emily, what do you guys do with your families, your respective families in the holidays?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty similar. Like we definitely have to kind of like massage the situation a little bit sometimes and like accommodate people, but at the same time, I think traveling is exhausting and I think it can be really hard on like your body. And so I like being home for the holidays, and I kind of like lay down the law with it a little bit. We'll do like, okay, we'll do Thanksgiving with you, but we're not doing Christmas, or vice versa,
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things. It's like you kind of like, you want to be there and you want to like show that you love them, but only to a certain extent. Like sometimes vacations can be like super stressful and hard.
Especially with your families,
Yeah.
I mean,
And like family's important, but also like if you want to be like in a good mood and having a good time with people when you're on the vacation. You don't want to be like resentful the whole time.
Also, you can also threaten, like if you don't listen to me now, then our next step is going to therapy together. You know what I mean? If you don't hear me now, we're going to have to go to a therapist because that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have someone mediate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think that's what's the other thing that's interesting about she gets to plan everything. She picks the destination and all of that sort of stuff. There's no buy-in from anybody. Like there isn't like a back and forth. It's just this thing that's decided for us. And it's just been hard to, accommodate that. And I'm getting like very resentful of the whole thing. So.
Okay. Well, good luck. Let us know what happens.
Yeah, I will.
Even though we know what's going to happen right away. We want the long-term repercussions or the long-term outcome, not repercussions.
Yeah. Email us after you write the email, and then also in January when you've had to have her cancel your part of the trip.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right. Thanks, Scarlett.
Well, thank you so much. It was so nice to meet you.
Bye. Bye, Scarlett. Thanks for calling in.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
So let's go to another caller here. We've got Rachel calling in. She says, Dear Chelsea, I'll start off by saying I have a difficult relationship with my brother's wife. They've been together for over a decade, and our family has stayed mum and just accepted the fact that she's not going anywhere. Until I found out that they've been having marital issues, and she suggested a divorce. As much as I want to celebrate this news, my heart broke for my brother. Fast forward to now, and I find out they're supposedly doing great. How am I supposed to accept this and act like I don't know about their past issues? Everyone's telling me to leave it alone because I'm not supposed to even know this in the first place, but I want to talk to my brother about it. What should I do? Rachel.
Hi, Rachel. This is our special guest, Emily Harrington's here today.
Hello, nice to meet you both.
Hi, are you hiding in a closet right now calling us?
I am.
Perfect. Okay, so you heard that they were having problems from who told you?
I was prying.
Okay. And so you've never heard anything from your brother regarding that?
I have not heard anything from the source, but I have heard it from now multiple sources at this point.
And he's saying everything's fine with their marriage?
Well, as of the latest update about a week ago, things are back to not being great.
Okay. Well, I think what you should do is very innocently let your brother know that you're there to lean on if he needs that. But I would assume, just from what you've told me and the fact that you are in a closet, that your brother knows how you feel about his wife and is probably not going to come to you with any information. So all you can do is just let him know that you're there if he needs to talk to you about anything. And I wouldn't even make it specific to his marriage. I would just remind him that you're his sister and that you love him and that if there's anything he ever needs or wants to talk about, that you're available. And I would leave it at that.
Okay. I've been thinking about doing that. I just worry about by doing that, he's going to know something's up, which then
but you're going to
But like even if no one told you, you can tell when people are like not getting along, having a difficult time. Like you can just say I picked up on some things, if he asks.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping towards. Like the vibes seem to be kind of weird between
you can
two.
say something like that, but just don't be, like when people aren't revealing things, it's hard to go in on them hard, like tell me everything. Like it can't be gossip. It's his life. So just be sensitive to the fact. Emily, do you agree with that? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think being sensitive and being like, expressing that you're there and you're supportive and you're a sounding board and you're always available to chat is good. It's hard because you kind of like never know what's really going on in a relationship.
Yeah.
Unless you're like in the relationship.
And even then, even then, sometimes you don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
And it just seems to be so like flip-flop back and forth. So I never know like where they stand one day. And so I'm like, when do I approach it? What do I say? Yeah. Even though I've never said anything, you're right. Like he knows my feelings about his wife.
Yeah. So it's better to come, especially if he's having trouble with her. Like he might have, I can't talk to you because you already don't like her. You know what I mean? You have to kind of open up the avenue to say like anything is safe here. It's okay. You don't have to gang up on whatever's going on with her. It's like you just want to be there to be a support and listen to him. Like you don't have to go, yeah, she's such a bitch or I can't believe her. When are you going to leave her? That's not the right approach. I think you should really just be, dialed into showing up for him and helping him in any way that he feels comfortable asking for help. Because men are hard to help sometimes, they're not effusive like women. We're not emotional. I mean, Emily and I were just speaking about that, how it's so much healthier to be able to express your emotions. And I think the people that bring that out best in men are typically women.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially my brother.
Yeah. So we wish you well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It was so nice meeting you both.
Nice to meet you too.
Thanks,
Take care.
Rachel.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, and we'll be right back with Emily Harrington. Okay, and we're back with Emily Harrington from Girl Climber, which is going to be available for everyone to see. It's a fucking awesome movie displaying true grit, true strength, and true determination. 3 things, and follow through. I think follow through is the most important thing here. Really like setting a goal and doing whatever it took to get there and making adjustments along the way after failing, after falling, literally falling, and making those adjustments to actually achieve a goal. So it's a great example and testament to a strength of mind, great fortitude. So thank you so much for being our guest today, Emily. I loved the movie. I'm going to watch it again and again and again. I think it's just a great movie for every woman to watch.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much.
Yes. Take care.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes,
Thanks.
absolutely. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.